And so, look, we are appreciative for our wonderful panelists that are here on today. And we're going to ask that they might really introduce themselves, but certainly we're appreciative for the Urban League, the Indianapolis Urban League, and their president, Mr. Tony Mason. And Kimberly Simmons is here on today from the Urban League, as well as Mr. Alan Hill. Kimberly Simmons is going to talk a little bit about training and education, and Mr. Hill is going to talk about housing. Reverend Antonio Lipscomb is here on today. He's going to talk about reentry, and Mr. George Middleton is going to talk about mental health. And our hope is that we have a healthy discussion, and that iron will sharpen iron, and that we will enlighten and even provide real resources for people as they reenter, and their families as well, as they seek to provide the household, the home environment that is necessary. And we seek to provide stability through the resources we provide. The purpose of First Baptist Church: we are a family of reborn believers, rejoicing in service and reaching our community in response to God's word. And so we want you to use this as a vehicle to reach the entire community, to let this world know, the world community know, that there's a loving and caring church located at 28th and Annette Street in Indianapolis, Indiana. And we care to bring this type of information. We're a teaching church, and we thank these teachers, these griots, these wells in the African tradition that come to share with us of our history, but also to share hope and encouragement for those specifically that are reentering and for their families. And so thank you all for being here on today. Let's get going. And so we're going to allow certainly ladies to go first. And we're going to call on Sister Simmons. Kimberly H. Simmons is with us on today. And as she comes, we're going to ask that she might give us words of encouragement and hope, and but also introduce herself and her organization. Thank you for being here on today.
Sure. Thank you for having me. My name is Kimberly Simmons, and I'm the Vice President of Programs for the Indianapolis Urban League. And I'm responsible for managing all of the programs and services and staff that we provide services to the Central Indiana community, as well as surrounding counties. And the Indianapolis Urban League has a plethora of programs and opportunities for individuals that are returning home, as well as their families and friends. And we're just super excited to be a part of this conversation. We just want to empower and provide people with information that they need to be able to make informed choices, informed decisions. And we're just super excited to be able to share all of the knowledge that we have with those in Central Indiana and far beyond.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you for being here on today. We're going to ask right now that Antonio Lipscomb, Reverend Lipscomb, would come and share with us about his organization and his hope and his passion for the work that he's doing.
Well, thank you, Dr. Hicks. Certainly it's a pleasure to be with First Baptist and your leadership, along with being invited by Senator Johnson, Dick Senator Johnson. We also just want to say we're thankful for the panelists that's on the stage here today, Urban League, and as well as George Middleton. Of course, you have a dynamic group here today. Again, my name's Antonio Lipscomb. I'm the president of Indiana ReEntry, and we serve pretty much Marion County population, and we have some extraordinary results that we have been able to accomplish this year. And so we're just excited about having the opportunity to be able to share and give some hope to the populations that a lot of times people just kind of overlook and put on the back burner. So I'm just excited about being here, and thank you so much for having me as a panelist here today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we also have Mr. Alan Hill that's with us from the Indianapolis Urban League. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak on these issues today, especially when we talk about housing. I am the income and support coach with the Indianapolis Urban League. And the best way to describe what I do at the Urban League is I unite our participants with services either in the Urban League or outside of the Urban League to help them overcome whatever barriers they may have to employment and housing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And last but certainly not least, Mr. George Middleton of George Middleton Consulting.
Hello, I'm George Middleton. Glad to be here with this esteemed group of colleagues and panelists. I am a therapist, and I'm also I'm a therapist in the mental health field. And I'm also an author promoting a series of works addressing the connection between our qualitative state of mental health and race ideology. And it's very apparent now, especially after COVID or during this COVID pandemic time, that race is front and center in everything we're addressing, and it is definitely the number one stressor in our community, and it is becoming declared a public health crisis across the country. So how do you deal with a public health crisis? And those are the things that I offer and want to discuss this evening.
Well, definitely. Thank you. Thank you all for being here on today. And as we get going, we are dealing with a pandemic, and that only exacerbates that makes reentry even that more arduous. That we are dealing with limited resources and change that was unexpected, and it's already hard enough to re-enter and to come back into the community, but coming back to a community where not only has technology changed, but protocols and procedures, norms and mores, the way life functions is different now. And so we are appreciative for everyone and for all of your expertise. Let's begin to, if we could, look at your specific areas. And when it comes to housing, when it comes to mental health, when it comes to education and training, when it comes to reentry, if we're looking at those specific areas, what would you describe as the greatest challenges? And then what resources are available to help not just the person that's reentering the community, but that entire family? So once again, what are the greatest challenges in your area of expertise? But then what are some of the great resources and maybe some words of encouragement as well? And so I'm gonna just go with who's next to me, and I'm gonna ask that Mr. George Middleton would begin. Mental health.
Well, thank you. Yes, the first and most important challenge that those within the walls of confinement and also those outside the walls of confinement need to address and get a proactive grip strategy on is trauma. And trauma is affecting, especially if you have found yourself in a restricted placement, it's usually a case of generational trauma that has brought you there. And when you find yourself in those positions, you are in even exponentiated trauma. I'd like to share a story with you today. One of the roles that I operate in is as a mentor. And I work with an organization called Crown Mentoring. And as we were working with our young people today, we were inspiring them to let them know that at the end of this 12-week cycle, all your parents and the community is going to be there to watch and look at what you've accomplished. And you're going to present these objectives and goals and activities as a sign of achievement and recognition from your community. And as I was explaining this, there was a young man in the 6th grade who started crying out of just nowhere. And I didn't know what was going on. So I asked the other mentors to take their scholars with them, and I addressed him individually. I said, young man, what is the matter? He says, well, I really want to do the celebration, but my dad won't be there because he's in jail. And that broke my heart. I mean, he was all out tears. And that's pure trauma. And I let him express himself and get it off his chest. And I said, young man, here's what we're going to do. we're going to make sure that we videotape that celebration, and we're going to make sure your parents, especially your dad, gets a copy of that videotape to see you and the achievements that you've made. But just imagine in 6th grade having that as a stressor and how that impacts your daily living, your thinking process. His brain's not even fully developed, and he has to somehow cope and find ways on a daily basis to deal with the fact that his dad is in jail. And so this whole piece, it's trauma all the way around. And we have to stop taking a reactive position to trauma and start being proactive. And that is why I'm really promoting this therapeutic approach, because it's more than just, having something to fall back on when something happens to you. We should have enough confidence and empowerment to control our circumstances and influence our circumstances so that we don't have to just be victims trying to just do the best that we can. So that's the first and foremost.
So then, Mr. Middleton, if we're looking at trauma, if someone is re-entering, there are stressors, and we're addressing some of those stressors today. Stressors, things that cause stress, include lack of housing. They include other resources, the dealing with a system that wants to still keep you under supervision and charge you for an anklet that monitors you, but does not give you the employment to cover or give you an opportunity to raise money to cover even that fee. And then expectations are heaped upon us to come back and contribute and provide. And in Indianapolis, Indiana, you may or may not be able to get around if you don't have a driver's license, but a lot of driver's licenses are taken when people go to jail. A lot of offenses require that to be taken. And so that's key. I think that's macro, and we're going to deal a little bit with the micro when it comes to understanding, yes, that there's stressors and trauma that are associated with being away, but there are also stressors and there's turbulence that you go through when you come back home. And so we're seeking to help people to meet those challenges on today. We're meeting challenges of re-entry in 2021. And so thank you, Mr. Middleton. Sister Simmons, Kimberly Simmons from the Urban League, education and training. What are some of the greatest challenges, and what are some of the great resources that are available?
Sure. Approximately 75% of our program participants have had some involvement with the criminal justice system. And so the Indianapolis Urban League recognizes that we have a responsibility to be able to assist those individuals as well as their families with being able to identify viable employment opportunities that are in fact paying a livable wage. So we understand that many individuals are struggling with finding positions simply because maybe they have limited access to available transportation. There are a lot of employers that are actually off the bus line. So if you do not have reliable transportation, it makes it extremely difficult, one, for you to be able to secure employment, and two, be able to retain employment just simply because you do not have the reliable transportation. We also understand that training is extremely important for individuals to be able to secure as well as retain full-time as well as part-time employment. And so what the Indianapolis Urban League has done was create programs, viable programs that offer individuals the opportunities to be able to earn industry-recognized training credentials at no cost to them. Once those individuals complete that training program and earn that industry-recognized training credential, depending on that particular training program, they may in fact actually be eligible for an externship of some sort. And that externship may very well be paid. And so that allows individuals to be able to earn an income to be able to support their families. opportunities. And so what we've discovered is that by introducing our program participants to our preferred employers that we have established excellent partnerships with over the course of the past 5 to 10 years, that those employers recognize the skill sets and the interests as well as the experiences of those who have convictions, and they understand that these individuals have the skill set and the experiences to actually succeed in a particular employment opportunity. So one of the things, again, as I shared before, is that we definitely recognize that there are a lack of employment opportunities paying livable wages. Employers that are actually located in areas where there's unlimited or unavailable transportation, for example, Indigo, because you can only take Indigo so far. And if you don't have reliable transportation, then that puts you in a position of not being able to meet the interviewer or secure or even retain employment. And as I shared earlier, the training opportunities that are available is something that is near and dear to us, because we understand that once an individual earns an industry recognized training credential, especially in an industry that is growing like IT, for example, that it puts people in a position to be able to secure that employment opportunity, to be able to become self-sufficient. And so that's where our programs are actually focused on. We approach it with a common sense approach, just making sure that we're providing all of the access to different resources and services for our program participants as well as the community in order for them to become successful.
Wonderful. I am always concerned, and maybe it's the pastor in me, but I'm always concerned that people are doing what they've been placed on this earth to do. And is there an inventory, or what is your process when it comes to trying to assess not just the ability to grab a hold of a skill, but to assess the purpose and the passion that a particular person has, because you could say that these are the jobs that are available, and these are the jobs that are paying $18.75 an hour, and so we can try to push you to these jobs. But just as in other communities, if you wind up on a job that does not suit you, or your gifts, your talents, your skills, your passion does not match up with that job, you won't be as successful on the job, and you certainly won't be fulfilled in that, which may lead you to want and wonder for other things. How do you assess persons that are coming into to your programs to determine really what their skill sets are, what their passions are, gifts, talents, and abilities even?
Sure. The entryway or the entry point to our programming and services is our New Beginnings program. Our New Beginnings program was actually launched in January of 2014. And since January 2014, I am very, very proud to share that we have had over 2,500 individuals enter that respective program. We have a 93% retention rate as well as an 80% job placement rate. One of the things that the team does very, very well is assess all of our program participants to determine their interests and aptitudes. Once they actually complete our New Beginnings program, that shows us that they're actually committed, because of course, if we're paying for a training program, we have to make sure that that individual is actually serious about training, that they meet the certain skills or the educational levels pertaining to a certain type of training program. And we have a team of individuals that actually work very closely with all of our program participants to make sure that we are actually assisting them with identifying viable training options and opportunities where they will be successful. So if an individual, based on the assessment that they have completed, it shows us that they're interested in this particular type of training, then we will encourage them by providing them with as much information as possible so that they're able to make an informed decision. And our Training Works coordinator, Vera Graves, does an absolutely phenomenal job with being able to enroll them into that training program and actually assisting them throughout training, providing them with transportation assistance, providing them with the support needed to be able to complete training, because it is a commitment. And many of our training programs run anywhere between 2 weeks and 25 or 26 weeks. And so she understands the importance of providing them with that resource, providing them with that support so that they're able to successfully complete training. We recognize that some people may not be able to actually earn that credential. They may have to retest. CDL training is a prime example. CDL training is very, very costly, and we have had to actually pay for 3 and 4 retests because we know that our program participants are really passionate about earning their CDL because it is a phenomenal employment opportunity. Some of them are able to become self-employed. And so again, we approach things with a common sense approach. We're very transparent. We make sure that people understand our expectations because we expect them to have expectations from us as well. So we just make sure that they're successful by providing them with the support as well as encouraging them to complete the necessary requirements, the assessments to allow us to be able to gauge their interests, their skill sets, and their aptitudes in order to ensure their success.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for all that you are doing there at the Urban League and for the resource, the extremely available and impactful resource that you are. We're going to ask that Reverend Antonio Lipscomb would come and talk to us about his organization and his passion with working with those that are reentering.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Hicks. And I just want to say I totally agree with Kimberly in her presentation in relation to helping individuals come back into society and be successful, because that's the main end result. We're hoping that every person that comes back into the community doesn't repeat the same cycle. To answer your question in relation to what I see is one of the strongest barriers we have, I have a political eye now, especially now that I'm running for city council and paying attention to committees, and particularly public safety committee. One of the areas I see as a stronghold in our community, I'm talking about in relation to Marion County, particularly in some of the worst areas like 46218. The main problem I see is the structure of community corrections. When I look at the numbers, I see the budget with community corrections. They get a little bit over $18 million to serve the reentry clients. 63% of that budget is primarily spent on administration. So we got a little bit over $11,666,743 of that $18,203,499 is actually going toward administration. When you look at what's left, which is about a little over $6,576,100 is being left from the city budget, with the largest institution for reentry in the state, which is a place called Duval. Duval has about 350 beds. Right now they have about a few hundred people in there. And the level of complaints that I receive on a daily basis of people being treated unfair and unjust through their transitioning is very appalling. And to see how much money goes to administration, yet they're still saying they need another $1,800,000 to try to get better staff, to me is really appalling. I think that one of the things that the community corrections needs to look at is seriously how can they connect with organizations that are represented here today, because quite frankly, within the reentry of the community corrections, there's a high disproportionate number of African-American people inside those institutions, and we don't really see the diversity of those individuals who are working in there to help the populations of people that they're serving. The people that look like us are not in there representing people that are in there that look like us. One of the main problems I think that, I say one of the solutions is the faith-based community. I think that the faith-based community should receive a substantial amount of money and resources that could come to be a part of the faith-based group, because quite frankly, our doors is open to everyone. We don't turn anybody away, regardless to their condition or position. We still try to find a way to get them housing, jobs, treatment, et cetera, et cetera. And so that is a big area that I think that the city, quite frankly, is missing the boat on. When it comes to my organization particularly, I created Indiana ReEntry because initially, when I got with Dr. Hicks, we thought we would just serve small construction companies and train up their employers and employees for the employers and building national accredited skilled trades with approved the Department of Labor, which we still do that. But just like Kimberly mentioned, just by default of these individuals coming from the areas that they come from, we run into a lot of people with criminal backgrounds. Therefore, because they have criminal backgrounds, there's certain other barriers, of course, that we have to consider now in order to be able to help them to compete. So one of the things I did right away with Indiana ReEntry is, of course, make Indiana ReEntry a part of what we have been accomplishing through Minority Contractors Collaboration, and that's creating an ATU, which is Accredited Training Unit, which is a nationally accredited school for the skilled trades. When Kimberly mentioned, this certification, we have a national accreditation, and so that means that we can do this anywhere in the country. One of the areas, and I have to divert back to this because it's crazy, because we're getting calls in Iowa, we're getting calls in North Carolina, we're getting calls over in Georgia. But even in my backyard, in the zip code that I live in, I have not been able to get one person from Duval in the area that I live in. But on a higher note, with CCA Jail, we have graduated over 700 people through CCA Jail that have come through our training, which we help them get jobs, leads into careers and housing. And so on one hand, we have extraordinary results through the jail, but on the other hand, trying to fight through community corrections has been an extreme challenge for us. So I think that we do have a little bit of housing, and I give you an example of a story sort of to what Mr. Middleton mentioned. I had a young man come to us. His name was Andre Parker, and he got out of the jail. And every person in the jail, we give them our personal cell number. So he had my personal cell number, and he calls me. He says, "Hey, I can't go to Willis Mission. I've been put out of there. I don't have any place to live." And he says, "If you can't help me, I'm just going to do something, go right back." I said, "Hold on." I drove downtown, threw him in my car. We put him in our transitional house, and we had him working within 48 hours. And so I told this story to the sheriff, and he said, "Man, I wish we'd have had this program in the jail sooner, because he had a guy that got out of jail and he didn't have no place to go. And he just took the brick and threw it straight through the courthouse window, and came and laid down and said, 'Hey, lock me up. I need my 3 meals in the cot.'" So, I mean, on one hand, that sounds hilarious, but on the other hand, what do you do when you don't have anywhere to go and you don't have any resources? So, again, this is something that I think when it comes to community service and serving the people in relations to reentry, the faith-based group needs to be funded so that we can do our work and not be interrupted. Thank you.
Well, a couple things, just in terms of definition. CCHL, you mentioned, what does that stand for?
CCHL.
Yeah.
I mentioned ATU, which is a national accredited unit for the skilled trade. So ATU is what we put in Indiana ReEntry to qualify to be a nationally accredited school for the skilled trades.
Okay. And tell us a little bit more about Minority Contractors Collaboration.
Yeah. Minority Contractors Collaboration was birthed because me and Dr. Hicks, we got together and we seen that there was a great need for more skilled workers. This has been a problem for over 20 something years. I remember going through the skilled trades and becoming an entrepreneur and trying to figure out how I can hire people and trying to work the union route and whatnot, and just ran up to a lot of barriers because the union, for some reason, they don't mind you working for them, but they don't really care for you actually having back then, I guess, having an actual company. So we just seen a flood of people come in and out, and no one never stuck with it. And then, of course, people taking the trades, the school system taking the trades out of the high schools, that also hurts. So now you have a group of people who don't have education in the skilled trades. And so we created it. Of course, through it, we birthed Indiana ReEntry, and we birthed Next Level Academies. And Next Level Academies all throughout the state, helping individuals get their high school diploma. They get credit for that. But by taking our course, they get the high school equivalency, Core 40. Just been invited to be in East Chicago school system to help those students get their Core 40 and have presence and training in that public school system. So I tell you, the work is just endless when it comes to opportunity. And the things that we have done within the COVID virus, we're the first in the country to create our core curriculum online. So when everything else stopped, we grew expeditiously, still hiring and administrative work and instructors. And I tell you, it's just a lot. It's just a lot. And we appreciate every moment of it.
Thanks for all that's taking place. We're excited about the progress and the ability to help. We're going to ask that Mr. Alan Hill would come. He's with the Urban League, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about housing. Once again, what are the greatest challenges specifically dealing with housing? And then what are some resources that are available that we want to let people know about?
Okay. In an ideal situation, individuals should learn about the Indianapolis Urban League and other Center for Working Families that have programs that work with individuals coming out of the penal system. They shouldn't know about us before they leave. But unfortunately, we a lot of times get individuals after they've been home, after there have been some failed attempts to try to adjust, and family members or friends will let them know about the Indianapolis Urban League and some of the work that we do. In regards to housing, obviously the biggest challenge is availability. There just aren't enough transitional housing programs for individuals with felonies on their background. A lot of individuals feel like or understand that they do not apply or they cannot apply for public housing because they do have a felony. More than likely, they end up having to work with a private landlord. And some of the challenges there are you have to have income in order to do that. You have to have ID in order to get housing. You have to have Social Security cards, some of the things that we take for granted because we have them. These are barriers that individuals coming out of the system have to face. So at the Indianapolis Urban League, we assist them. We're gathering all those documents that are needed for housing. We work with families. We work with the shelters and transitional housing programs to secure housing for individuals who come through our program. We assist with rent and utilities for individuals coming through our program, and not just the felon himself, but families. Families of these felons can apply for rental assistance, for utility assistance. I have gathered quite a list of landlords that will work with individuals with barriers. I tell you, it took a while, and it took some failing, and it took some success. But we have quite a long list of individuals that will house individuals with felons. But the key is, if you're not working, you can't pay your rent. So we kind of work hand in hand with the employment staff at the Indianapolis Urban League to help individuals secure employment, even if it's just what we call a survival job, as they go through some type of training program or look for the job of their passion. We work really close with the employment staff to help individuals secure employment, to help individuals get their record expunged, to help individuals get their driver's license. All these things we try to work with, along with the major issue, which is the lack of housing.
Absolutely. And so we have heard from everyone on today, and want to sort of bring everybody a little bit more equal standing here, that we're all in the same square footage, if you will, on our Hollywood Squares presentation. But we thank you all for what you all are doing. And we have heard that there's the need to deal with trauma. There's the need to deal with training and transportation. We've identified community corrections as a problem. We've identified the availability of housing as a problem. And so these are the challenges. These are the challenges that our members of our congregations, members of our families, members of our community, these are the challenges that our friends and our loved ones are facing as they seek to get back up on their feet and get a footing on tomorrow. And it's our responsibility in various different ways, and sometimes in different arenas, but we all have the same responsibility to try to provide the resources, to try to provide some type of hope. And even beyond the notion of hope is the real help that is necessary and needed. And so, first of all, I want to thank you all for what you all are doing to help people meet challenges. And so First Baptist is extremely appreciative for the partnership that we have with the Urban League. We consider the Urban League to be strong partners, and we appreciate your leadership in so many ways. George Middleton and Middleton Consulting, he knows friend and brother beloved. And so we're appreciative for the work that he is doing as a therapist and the work he does with children. And Antonio Lipscomb with Minority Contractors Collaboration and Indiana ReEntry. The work that all of you all are doing seeks to provide these resources. And so what I was sort of listening to and what I heard, the notion fell on me that really there's a reentry tax. There's a reentry tax that is levied on members of our community that come back and they look to establish themselves. We alluded to it earlier. The anklet that you have to wear that requires you to pay X amount of money. $14 a week.
$14. I believe it's $14 a day. They're trying to reduce it down to $8.
Yeah, not a week, a day, right? And so that would be, for a month, what are we talking? $420?
Yeah, at the last city council and public safety meeting, they were trying to brag that they were going to try to get it down to $8. So,
right.
Not to mention all the restrictions that these guys have when it comes to having time away from their families to be able to go to work. It's bad.
Right. And so that's a tax. And if your child support has accrued, you can't go for even an expungement and many other things because you have that tax that is levied on you.
Right.
You don't have transportation, as Sister Simmons talked about earlier. And if you don't have transportation in a place. This is not New York City. This is not Washington, D.C., where you can go get on a bus and go get on a train and make your way. I would imagine that even with the red line going down, was that College and Meridian Street, that does not service a whole bunch of the population that we're talking about today. And if you do get on a bus in Indianapolis, Indiana, I bet you still have to go downtown before you go anywhere, right? And so the system is not set up for easy transition back to the community. In fact, there are taxes that are levied, and there are fines that need to be paid, and there are no jobs en masse that are available. And so once again, the reentry is inhibited by many of these things. And so what are some of the ways we can get the word out about resources that are available? I heard earlier that Mr. Hill, he said that they just don't know until perhaps they're in an emergency. That's when people lead them to the Urban League. I'm certainly impressed by the willingness and the forethought of Mr. Lipscomb to start in Marion County Jail number 2 when we were, Love Life and Minority Contractors Collaboration early on. But then to allow that program to expand so that you're working with the sheriff and working with people that are in jail so that they already have your cell phone number. How do we get to the population that needs this information and these resources? How do we get to them early so that we can ensure a smooth transition? And I'm going to allow you guys to talk. I do this for a living. I can talk, but I want you all to feel free to. I asked you all earlier. Let's dialogue. Let's engage one another. But how can we help? How can we make the communication better and the transition better for those that are coming back?
Before you get into actually answering that question, I would just like to challenge everybody's thinking that just even having to ask that question is a dilemma in itself. To try to address why are we in the situation where we don't have the word out? What's going on in our community in 2021 where that's not already addressed? So, I want to really focus on the internal before we start trying to do the external, because if we haven't changed our thinking processes, then we can call it a bunch of different names. We can put a different spin on it, a nice little marketing piece on it. But if it's still the same thing, ultimately it's the definition of insanity, because we're going to get very similar results. And next year or the year after, or whenever the next virus hits, pandemic hits, we're going to be right back in the same situation, reacting to our environment rather than creating and controlling our environment. So I want to challenge us to address the internal first before we start trying to create external things that people can see, and that it looks like, oh yeah, they're doing that, they're doing that, they're doing that. Not that those things aren't great, but have we addressed the thought process that even got us there in the first place?
Okay, and
so there's success is not rocket science. You model what other people are doing in whatever your area is, and you do that. As a racial demographic, we're not modeling success. We're not modeling it in the way we think the way it should be modeled. We're modeling it in a way that we've been trained to model. We're modeling it from a reactionary position rather than doing what other collective groups do and creating that infrastructure. We don't have infrastructure, and that's why we're paying this reentry tax, because we're not independently economically franchised. We're trying to groom our community to fit in someone else's infrastructure, one that historically and currently is shown not to be very user friendly, and we don't have our own infrastructure. And a perfect example of that right now that's happening, that we really need to be very, very aware of, is the CRT debacle that's going on in our education system. They created a fictional monster that does not exist in order to be able to get rid of actual educational curriculum that our young people need to know about. But because we're not in control of it, we're only in reaction of it, they're going to wipe out anything to do with our history just in order to meet the emotional satisfaction of the other group. And that leaves us marching and protesting rather than having a collective and cohesive strategy. So again, I want to challenge us to start thinking, how can we be proactive and create our own independent base to work from, rather than always trying to figure out how can we make this system work for us.
Right. And so CRT, critical race theory, is what you alluded to, and I'm trying to make sure that when we hear all these letters running together, that we try to define what those letters are, because we have wonderful geniuses and professionals that are here that use these terms all the time. But you're exactly right that we need to make sure we are paying attention to what we can do. Self-determination is extremely important. In fact, it's the only way for us to progress. We cannot continue to expect that a system that was not built for our progress, and a system that was certainly not built to allow for persons to re-enter society smoothly, it's obvious that it is not set up that way. And so that's dysfunctional. And so we're excited about the fact that we have these dysfunction disruptors that are here with us, that in their own way, utilizing the Urban League, Indiana ReEntry, and George Middleton Consulting, you are these disruption. You are the disruption to the dysfunction that we see taking place. How can we create a more healthy community, a more responsive community, as opposed to being a reactionary community? And so, Sister Simmons?
Yes, if I could share, the Indianapolis Urban League, in partnership with the National Urban League, the Lilly Endowment, as well as the Indianapolis African American Quality of Life Initiative, is working very, very closely together and with the community to be able to identify and address the immediate needs and barriers of our community. Additional information will be coming out in regards to that initiatives, opportunities for community-based organizations, employers to be able to partner, to be able to have those conversations, to be able to address some of the immediate needs of our community. So I definitely wanted to share that is something that Tony Mason is working very, very hard on with Mark Morial, who is our National Urban League president, as well as the Lilly Endowment, as well as Black Onyx and the Indianapolis African American Quality of Life Initiative. So I wanted to share that. So that information is definitely going to come out probably over the course of the next few weeks. We have been working very hard behind the scenes. We're super, super proud of a lot of the work of those partners, of those employers, of those community-based organizations who have all come together, in addition to surveys being provided to the Indianapolis community residents, asking them their opinions about their quality of life. And so we're definitely super excited about this. So I wanted to share this information as well. So you will be hearing some additional information over the course of the next few weeks. So he's definitely right. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think Ms. Simmons, said working together. As she spoke about all the different entities that are working with together on this project. I think forums like this, us coming together, sharing what it is that we do, how can we work together to assist individuals who are coming out of the system, and also assist their families. I've heard things today about services that I was not aware of, or just did not know enough of. So I think forums like this is really important you guys get to hear what it is that we do at the Indianapolis Urban League, get to hear about the success that we have and all the different programs that we have. And I'm listening to the other speakers and what it is they do. They all really kind of tie in together for the success of individuals coming out of the system.
Mm-hmm. I want to say that I totally agree with everything that has just been said, and I want to give kudos to the Urban League and Tony Mason. I consider him as a great almost mentor, even though I'm almost about the same age as him, but I consider him as almost like a mentor. But one of the things I want us to also take in consideration based on what Mr. Milton, I said Minister Milton, so I didn't gave you a clergy title there. So here's what I see very clearly when it comes to what we can do right now, because obviously the relief and the funding and supporting programs and whatnot, that has to be done. That's just without question. But simultaneously, I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time. And we cannot ignore what has been in existence, like Mr. Middleton had mentioned, and these failed things that has really plagued our community, and we have dumped millions of dollars into entities that, quite frankly, keep recidivism working. Duval is a place that should never be funded. It should never continue. It's in 46218, and I don't even know what training providers that they have in 46218 of people who look like me. Yet you have the largest group of people in there that looks like me. We, on a united front, the low-hanging fruit, in the 13th largest city in America, where you have the highest homicide rate, 46218 on the Near East Side, where Duval is located, looking to expand, while the faith-based community, which all these churches, I just bought a church, on Dr. Andrew J. Brown too. I got my competitors right down the street. So if you can't get saved on Dr. Andrew J. Brown, I don't know where you get saved at, because you got 20 churches. But what I'm saying is, how can we look at these churches and say, look, city council, we do not, first of all, I don't understand why the city council wouldn't match with we said endowment with Lilly. I don't see why that can't be matched. That should be matched. If the city can give $150 million for the stadium of the Pacers to be renovated just to keep up with the Joneses, not that the stadium needed to be renovated. They just said they want the stadium to keep up with what's going on throughout the league, and gave $150 million to do common renovations to upgrade the stadium. If they can do that for a stadium for a basketball team, how about the community, which the Urban League is proudly serving, and his churches are proudly serving, that I'm proudly serving, and then Mr. Middleton, there should be a huge building in his honor with plenty of therapists. All the different people that I see on a daily basis in our community that have mental health issues, especially, and you can just, not only just the COVID virus, that's one big, huge area, but before that even took place, we had all type of trauma that came through our community. So my deal is this: what we can do right now is say, community corrections, we don't want no more people on those bands, because it's simply not working. I know a guy, matter of fact, my stepson, he on the band, he begging them. My guy had a grandson that was born on my birthday. So God loves me. I don't know about nobody else. But born on my birthday. But my daughter's boyfriend has an ankle bracelet. He's begging these people to be at her birth. I mean, literally begging him not to lock him up so he can be a father to his child that's being born in the world. I'm having to call and make arrangements to try to get through to people who are counselors who don't even care about these people that's on these bans. I'm sorry, man. That's just where I'm at, Dr. Hicks. I know my time is up, man, but let's get rid of community. We don't need no community corrections. That's what I feel. We don't need it.
Right. And the self-determination we talked about earlier, just as we have innovative programs, and there has been a complete assessment of the attitudes, thoughts, and hopes of the African American community and wider community by the Urban League, so that they can, with some forethought and resignation, look to utilize an incredible resource that's coming our way, just like we see with Indiana ReEntry and the work that you're doing, Pastor Lipscomb and George Middleton, the work that you do. We see that there are resources available. We see that there are people that may be in silos or in segments. We see that these things are taking place. But the question is, how can we work together? And how can we, if we know community corrections is the problem, if we identify, the fountainhead of this oppressive society that is this criminal justice system, how do we, if we are to be self-determined, create for ourselves a community corrections? How do we create programs? How do we create the place and run the place for ourselves that allows some dignity and some community compassion to take place as we are dealing with people? Because there's more money to be made by our people going back into the prison industrial system. There's more money to be made by violating people. There's more money to be made if there are no people that are everybody's breaking laws, but caught breaking laws or found to be breaking laws, or if that pool of people is not there, then people don't make money. How do we make sure we are creating institutions, and how do we make sure we are creating the programs that allow for us to be in position to help ourselves as a community? Sister Simmons?
Yes, if I could share, one of the things that I believe that we do very well as an agency is that we are not afraid to make those referrals. We can't be everything for everyone. We can't do everything. And so if we know that there is another agency that is fully equipped and they have access to the resources and the services that someone may need that comes through our doors, we will refer that individual out and we will make that phone call to that referring agency. We already know what we're up against. So we as a community, we cannot be afraid of referring out, because sometimes I think that some of us just want to keep everyone ourselves. That's not always in the best interest of those who we're serving. So if you know that there is an agency that does that provides a service, that provides an opportunity where you don't, or maybe you're limited on dollars, because the funding is crucial. The funding is key. If you don't have the funding or the access to the available services, then refer those individuals out to those agencies that you know that you trust are actually going to assist and provide the best resources possible. So that crabs in a bucket mentality is alive, it is real. And if you know that someone else can do the work, that doesn't say anything about you or the agency that you're connected to. It just shows that you're putting the needs and the well-being of that individual and their family first. And so I would really and truly encourage people that if you have someone who is seeking a service, make that collaborative partnership. Talk to that additional agency or program, have those conversations, and let's all work together, because there are some absolutely phenomenal agencies, large and small, that would be able to assist as many people as possible. We just have to start looking at the best interests of those that we're serving and not necessarily ourselves, and just making sure that we're providing as much resources and support as possible.
You know, Sister Kimberly is really touching on a really important component that we need to address as a community. So I'm going to say something here, and I don't want it to come off as criticism or any disparaging way. But to your question, Pastor Hicks, you know, to the how do we create, coming from a mental health perspective, the first tool that you have to use in solving a problem is self-reflection, self-evaluation. What is my personal contribution to the state of whatever condition that I'm addressing? And COVID-19 really is providing all of us, in whatever system you want to pick, an opportunity to become self-reflective. You know, as leaders, and I consider myself a leader in my respective area of expertise, I can't just say they're doing something wrong. I've got to question my personal, what am I doing that has contributed to these systemic disparities that have been growing and accumulating over the generations that COVID has revealed. And I encourage every leader here and every leader listening, start with yourself first. How did we individually allow our community to get to this position? Not from a point of shame, blame, finger pointing, not from that, but for objective assessment of, okay, I need to know what I'm doing, what I did to get here, so that whatever my future moves are, it will be minus those moves that are responsible for me being here. One of the primary areas that we as leaders have, which Sister Kimberly hit on, is the lack of collectivity and trust that we have in our community. And again, this isn't blame, this isn't shame, but we get caught in trying to, we put our Superman cape on and try to be the hero, rather than put a C for collectivity and collaboration on and just try to fix the problem. And I understand where it comes from, because again, I'm looking at things from a therapeutic standpoint. As a racially Black demographic, we're doing a lot of things based from trauma. Yeah, we got suits and ties on, we got initials on, we're in a nice office, we're making 6 figures, we're looking good. But you know what? In the work I'm doing, I'm finding that regardless of socioeconomic status, trauma is hitting all of us. And it's making us do things that we have normalized. We have normalized our dysfunction. And when we become successful, we start to trivialize that dysfunction because, hey, I made it, so there's no excuse for you. And that's unfair what we're doing to each other. And what it does, it makes us competitive against each other rather than empathetic with each other. So it's easy to say, let's work together, let's refer, let's do that. But it's a process, because you got to first start with your own thinking as to how you got there. And what is going on right now, if we as leaders don't say it's our responsibility first, we're the reason why this condition is where it is.
Right.
Then we won't be the reason why it'll be different, because we're going to continue to do the things without self-reflection, self-evaluation. I'm on the board of the Indy Black Chamber of Commerce. I can tell you one thing for sure, guys. Every successful, healthy, intact community has a strong chamber of commerce. Across the nation, the Chamber of Commerce that represents our racial demographic is the weakest. It's the least supported, it's the least funded, it's the least respected, and it's vulnerable to all the suspicions and lack of trust that is clearly in our community. And then we try to take a role designed for the Chamber of Commerce and put it in the shelves or the weight or the barrels of other organizations that aren't designed for that. The solution to our community, you can, from a mental health perspective, You can knock down 90% of the social ills with a strong, independent base of economics, where we control our employment, we control our financing, our capital, we control our systems of education. We control that, right? But we don't think like that. We're thinking is, how can we get the system to let us in? And as long as we do that, then we're fighting with each other to get a part of what the system offers, rather than collectively coming together, kind of like the Amish community does. For a smaller example, where we are first look within, collaborate our resources in an organic fashion. We don't make a big production out of it, we just do it. And that way we have respect. Because one of the issues, again, that Sister Kimberly brought up, is there's a huge perception in our community that we don't work together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's working against us, because if we don't work together, we're asking to be respected. And then the people that we're asking to fund us are saying, well, hey, you guys don't respect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So we really need to be real with each other about that issue that Sister Kimberly brought up.
Dr. Hicks.
Yes, sir.
And I agree with everything he just said. So let's speak about working together, because we talked about working together from a programmatic standpoint, and I get that. But one of the things I think every one of us can agree on is the fact that when you speak of reentry, one thing we can agree on is the problem with housing. That is across the board, bringing the family back together. Okay, now look at this. Instead of giving $18 million over to community corrections, how about cutting that budget in half, and all those different complexes we got on the far east side? Look at this, Doc. Get them to the faith-based community. Let the Black contractors that live in that community fix on those houses. Let the people that are re-entering back into their family structure have a safe community where they can come and they can get in a place where now they can settle and start to self-reflect. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, if I ain't got no place to stay, if I gotta hit you at the bank at the ATM to get me a room, that's where I'm at. I'm telling you, we have to. So I'm saying this: we can say, look, housing is the number one thing for the faith-based community, and we want all the money that's going to all these different places that's not solving our problem. Give us our money. Cut the budget in half. Let us go fix up some places where we can have a community of reentry people coming in. And it's not, we don't want them to say, well, the man can't stay in the home with the woman. You know, we want to say, no, this is a family thing. And the man can stay with the woman, the man can stay with his kids, and we can get them jobs, we can get them training, we can get them mental health, you know. But if we just keep, no disrespect, because I'm a program person too. I've done extremely well this year, but I know that that's only part of the problem. I need to figure out how I can get these people housed.
Yes.
And then we can do it. We can do it. I know we can.
So look, our time is wrapping up, but I do want to echo and make sure that we're actively listening. What I have heard is that the first step to self-determination is the self-assessment that is necessary. We need to look at not just ourselves individually, but we need to look at our institutions to see whether or not our institutions are set up in such a way that we are not competing with one another, but we're completing one another.
That's it.
Love
right.
it.
That's it.
Right.
That's it.
And I think that the discussion that we are having right now is helpful. It's hopeful. And I do want to challenge folk that are listening right now. Go to the chat category, go to your comment category, and I want you to list resources. We've heard resources that are available, but list other resources that are available. If you know of somebody that has a project, somebody that has a ministry, somebody has a mission that would be helpful to those that are reentering and their families, put that in the chat category so that we have a list of resources that are available, and we demystify some of this, and we have an opportunity at least to have a roster, and we know who's working in those particular areas. I'm gonna ask that you all might do this. I can't remember the order we started in, but let's go Sister Simmons and George Middleton, then Mr. Hill and Mr. Lipscomb. If you guys would come with just a final comment of your passion and your hope, some closing statement that you want to provide at this point. And once again, thank you all for being here with us on today. I want to thank Sandra Johnson and Curtis. I want to thank them for everything they do, our entire prison ministry at First Baptist Church, North Indianapolis. They are such a wonderful crew, and they have been very intent on not just going to pray and to sing and to preach and to provide necessary word within prisons, but this prison ministry symposium, this is the 20th year that we have done this. And every year we seek to be Rhema. We seek to be relevant. Right now is what Rhema stands for. We seek to, with purpose, Nia is the key Swahili term. We, with purpose, seek to have this prison ministry symposium. And certainly the identified areas that we have talked about today. We've talked about mental health, which is overwhelming. And we've talked about housing, which we can all identify as a great need for those that are reentering and their families. We've identified educational opportunities, and we've identified other things that are necessary in terms of job training, and these things are extremely necessary and needed. The discussion that we're having right now is extremely important for us to have. And it's important because that's what fuels the necessary work for us to be the community that we know God is calling us to be. Once again, we don't want to be negative prognosticators, but what we do want to say is that we have established challenges. And we've identified challenges, but we have also established and identified ways to resource the challenges that have come up. We encourage each of you at this point to come and provide some closing remarks. And if I can remember the order, I said I'm going to allow Sister Simmons to come ladies first once again.
Thank you. I want to share that there are excellent employment and training opportunities that are available. Make sure that you are connecting with a program that is willing to have those conversations, that's going to hold you accountable, and you hold them accountable. There are opportunities that are available, and I'm just super excited for those who actually take the initiative and actually follow through on their end, not only for themselves, but for their families, because there are options and opportunities that are available. The Indianapolis Urban League has some phenomenal programs, and we would love to be able to continue providing anyone who's needing assistance, family, friends, the community as a whole. And we're just super excited to be able to continue on providing these excellent opportunities. And thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Sister Simmons. And we're going to ask that, I think I said George Middleton's going to come. Yeah.
Yes, I just want to leave everyone with just a few tasks to implement until we next meet. First, address your own mindset. Evaluate your thinking on a very authentic basis. Begin with the internal of your solution before you start on the external of your solution. And then lastly, and most importantly, you need to develop a proactive strategy to address the new public health crisis, racism. Do not allow yourself to stay in a reactive position to the systemic disproportionate treatment and disparities that you know are harming our community on a daily basis. And lastly, my work with the Indy Black Chamber of Commerce is teaching and training organizations how to implement these type of tasks through our initiative called the Indy Black Chamber Disparities Initiative. So this is a process, and we can teach and train organizations how to do that. That will supplement all of the other great programs that you're doing.
Thank you so much. Mr. Hill.
Well, I'm glad we recognize the need for the housing as individuals are released from the system. Let's come together and use our dollars. One house is all it takes to house one family. Let's use our resources so that we can show that we can do it, that we have the ability to do it. Even if it's just one house, let's get started using our dollars.
Right. Thank you so much. And Mr. Lipscomb.
Yes, I say that's a great segue into what my passion is. As a young man growing up 40th and Boulevard, we had waste in the front of our yard, buffing up so that when we went to prison, we wouldn't go in there scrawny. The Lord blessed me to get a trade so that I wouldn't have to do some of the things my friends were doing. And a lot of those guys got 30 and 40 years, and some of them didn't make it. A lot of them didn't make it. So as we look to get individuals housing, consider that young man who don't know how to make ends meet and trying to get a career, trying to do something in their life. Our program helps them learn how to work on those houses, work on those buildings so that they can have a livable wage to take care of their family and work for me. So I know it's working for hundreds of people that we put through our program, and we have open enrollment. Feel free to reach out to this program or go to mccindiana.org, open enrollment. We're ready to start working with anybody, anytime, any moment. Let's get it, family. I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. Thank you so much. And we want to bring our co-chair, Sister Sandra Johnson, back. And we want to put everybody on the screen, same size here. We want to say thank you. That's in sign language. Thank you. But we want to say thank you for an enriching and impactful session. Thank you for your sacrifice of time, as we are certainly appreciative. Sister Johnson, if you would give us some final remarks, and I'll pray and we'll be ready to go.
All right. We've had a wonderful evening of discussion. I thank you all. Has been very informative, and this is just the kind of information that we wanted to implement and be able to present for those who are needing to hear this. We look forward to this opening up on the 12th and more people being able to hear this information and knowing that there are resources out there in spite of what we're going through, that the Indianapolis Urban League, Mr. Reverend Lipscomb's ReEntry program, and Mr. George Middleton is available with services that he can provide to help us with our mental health. I thank you all. God bless you, and have a great evening.
Thank you so much, Sister, for having us. Thank you so much
as well.
So let's pray. God, we thank you for what we have received on today. We thank you for knowledge and for wisdom, the sacrifice of time on the part of these experts in particular areas that have opened their hearts and their minds that we might be better. We ask that you might continue to use us to be of resource, allow us to examine ourselves and examine the institutions that we are a part of, and allow us to create impactful change within ourselves and within organizations that we might continue to provide for those that most need the help and most need the resources. And so right now, continue to use us. We thank you for this time of sharing and ask that you might continue to bless us and keep us. In the name of Jesus Christ, I pray. Let us all say amen.
Amen.
Thank you all.
God bless you.
Thank you all.
Take care.
For everything. Bless you. Thank you for being here.
Thank
God
you.
bless you.